everybody. This is a kind of a little bit of a spontaneous talk also from last week. This morning, coming down to Zazen early in the morning, I was looking up at the stars in the sky, and it felt like there was a canopy of stars over me when walking down to the Zendo. And a lot of times in the morning, I can be also very sleepy at times, but today, I think since I had to give the talk, I was awake this morning. So, let's see. There's a short story about in the Lotus Sutra about the Buddha having a conversation with Shariputra. And Shariputra was requesting that the Buddha tell the assembly that all phenomena, or basically all things, are the Buddha. And Shariputra wanted the Buddha to expound the teachings to the assembly, but the Buddha was very hesitant because he thought that it would be too difficult for the assembly to understand. So after 3 times, Shariputra asking the Buddha of course said, I will. So he accepted. So the Buddha started to tell the assembly, and it's a big assembly, you know, thousands of people. The Buddha started to expound that all things, and then all human beings are exactly the Buddha. And the assembly, basically everybody got up, all the thousands of monks, nuns, lay practitioners, they got up and they walked out, and they said it was too difficult for them to understand. And also it was too difficult for them to accept that they are Buddha. So I think this, last week I was talking about this too, is about, it's a lot like us right here as we sit in the Zendo, the very few of us here that we sit in the Zendo. And also it's like everybody online. To how we come to this practice of the Buddha's teachings, and we read it, but it's something that we actually don't understand, and that there's so many things that we do in our life to try to understand things. So it's that's a very interesting thing about not understanding and understanding. We want so much to understand this life that we have, but we choose things that we understand to try to understand this life, but to understand the human condition, human suffering, and the infinite worlds upon worlds, we actually cannot conceive it, or we don't understand. So it's something that we must um, we must make an effort in which to actually not understand. And when we make this effort over and over again to actually not understand, then this a deeper quality of understanding arises. And of course, there's different types of understanding, and probably many of us, just like me, we come to this practice because there's an understanding up here that we want to that we want to get, that makes sense to our lives, maybe, but yeah, I mean, I think everybody understands what I'm saying by not understanding. And it's through especially through Soto Zen, it's actually through the body that we understand. And that's a very important one. It's through the body that we understand. So when we walk into the Zendo, or when we go to it could be a Heiji, it could be a small temple, or when you come to the Zen center, or when you actually face your cushion, you should put your hands together in gasho, and then you should bow to your cushion. When you're walking at the temple, or when you're walking in the temple, then you put your hands in shashu, and you feel yourself there. So it's all about bringing attention and details to actually this our human condition of being confined in this body. This body, then we start to feel this body in a different way. So we open the door, and then we bow at the threshold. We bow from the crown of our head all the way down to the floor, and we feel our gasho. We feel our feet on the floor when we bow. And we do this thousands and thousands of times. But this all the forms that we do before we sit on the cushion. It's creating a container in which we are now turning our attention, or all the details that we feel when we walk and when we approach the cushion. We turn our focus or our awareness now to this very body. But a lot of times, yes, we do. We walk and we sit down, and that's okay too. But we should embody these forms that we have that have been transmitted to us through this lineage, through this great lineage of Soto Zen. So this is Soto Zen. It's very physical. Soto Zen is very physical, and so it's a body and a physical physical experience, and it's not up here. So the understanding then starts to come from your heart, and it starts to come from understanding through your bones, through your muscle, through the cells of your body. So of course, there's the instructions of how to enter, how to bow to your cushion, how to sit on your cushion, and then you turn clockwise. And then there's all the details about the posture. So how should we sit? And then we assume this posture, and we take, the seated posture, and then we rock from right to left. Slowly then bringing our conditioned world, or all opposites, even all opposites of the gasho, together. We're embodying now all opposites. So left and right, hot and cold, healthy and sick, we now come together, and now we're in a seated posture. And now we sit up in this upright position with the crown of our head up towards the ceiling. And then when we extend our spine, we push our sitting bones then into the earth, and the crown of our head, or the crown of your head, then swivels, and now it sits over your spine. So of course we bring our hands into mudra. We have our eyes casted in front of us. So again, these details aren't, they're not teachings at all. It's not a teaching, and has nothing to do with being mystical or aiming at spirituality, but it's actually creating a container in which now all thoughts that arise, or all the thinking, is kind of, it's cultivated in a way that starts to then shine awareness, or maybe gives life to this body when we sit zazen. So of course it's very interesting that the mind, when we sit, the mind, of course, all these thoughts come up about everything. All these thoughts come up, and of course the mind, or the details that we start to feel, start to you listen to your heartbeat. You could feel your heartbeat. Maybe how your shoulders sit on your body. So these thoughts that arise and that you're thinking of, it starts to turn into actually an awareness. And this awareness then it may go here, it may go there, and we let it do what it wants to, but at the same time we return, and the awareness will be there, but we are committed to return to this body of sitting right here and right now on this cushion. And then something happens, the awareness comes back to actually the sensation of just sitting there. So it is something amazing that we do. So we feel all the sensations of the body. We feel our breath, you know, our heart is beating, our blood is circulating in the body. But we return 100,000 times we do this. And when we return to this body or to this, just this sitting, we actually short circuit or we interrupt actually the usual patterns or our usual flow of what our conditioned mind, what we usually think up here. Distractions, anger, when we come back with also the distractions and anger, right when it's happening, the awareness, it interrupts it. And something happens that it's a short circuit and it interrupts the individual self, or this self, this me and my. It interrupts the solidity of the self and it breaks it. Kind of like I was thinking right now about like a bowling ball. You roll it down the lane and then it hits the pins and then it scatters it and it breaks it apart. So I have interrupts this usual conditioned flow of the individual self in this body, which creates greed, anger, and ignorance. I mean, how great is that? You know? How great is that? But it's so simple that we look so far to something else to try to solve it with our understanding up here. Again, then the awareness then turns right away. We come back to our body and then it breaks it again. So we do this and it can happen thousands of times in a period of sitting. It could happen in a day of sitting. It could happen in years of sitting, in lifetimes of sitting, but we do this over and over and over again. So this right when this individual self, you would say, or this greed, anger, and ignorance is scattered, you would say, then we are actually living. We are living or being lived by the experience of life or our life itself right here and right now. So it's a lived, it's a totally embodied and lived experience. And at the very moment that this interruption happens, then simultaneously, then all things are arising, and also they're disappearing. Also they exist, and also they don't exist. But something happens then to this zazen that we do just sitting on the cushion. You know, it's a big thing that we do. This is no small joke, but this is a very big thing that we do. But I don't think very few people, very few of us, including myself, we don't understand what it is and how big it is. Or we understand it in a different way and we want it bigger than what it is, but it's not. It's something that's very simple, and it's something that's very direct. So when we come back then to this zazen posture, then the body becomes bigger than the body itself. there's a different life, a different quality to this body. It's not just now this body sitting, but it's this big body, this whole or this faith-like body when we sit. So in some terms, they call it like a shikantaza. It's directly striking where you sit. So life is different when you have this quality. Life becomes different. But there is some type of there's some type of confidence that well, I guess it's reconditioning the conditioned mind, because we're usually following our thoughts. Let's say this is my right hand is our thoughts, or it's the thinking mind, and this is the body. Usually we follow the conditioned mind all the time, you know, this or that, and we're following it. But we are turning our attention now to this body and what it's doing, our awareness, and we're just flipping it around. We're not doing anything else but flipping it around. And now it's the quality of the body that has, it grounds this thinking mind, which then turns into a type of it's an awareness that we bring to it. So of course, like I've said before many times, is this body when we sit too, it's like all the pieces of the body, the arms, legs, the head, the mudra. When you're sitting, also, and that awareness is there, then the body solidifies itself. This body solidifies itself, but then this body, the Buddha's body, the body that at the beginning we did not accept. We couldn't accept it because we're thinking up here. But now we know it. We know it. So it's not even accepting it up here, or it's not something that someone's telling us to do. But now it's in our heart, and now it's in our body. And then we feel this, that the body is no different, or it has the identity of this awareness of actually all things, being connected to all things. So it's great. But I think of course, when we finish our sitting, or we finish it like a sesshin or meditation intensive, and then, you know, we go back down the mountain into the you would say into the marketplace. All the usual habitual patterns and all the things, they come back. They come back to our body, and all of it all comes back. However, it feels something is different, because there's a lightness there. It's like we went on a vacation because there's a spaciousness that we know, there's a quality that's larger than what we can even imagine. So then then that's this confidence, or you would say trust, and the truth that we know. It's a trust how we navigate then within the real life. You would say the real life of the marketplace, or the dusty realm. Um, so maybe we understand, or there's a way of living that it's it's not confined um, by this individual self that we think always up here, but now it's through your heart, and it's through actually all the activities that you do. So so Zen is actually just is living our life, but in this huge, it is a very big way it's living our life. It includes all things then. So when we bow, like when we bow, just the activity of bowing itself, it includes all beings, the entire world. And when we bow, when we wash dishes, when we drive our car, when we take off our shoes, when we put on our shoes, when we get in an argument with our kid, that includes all the entire body of the universe. So we have a So it's interesting how then this and I was mentioning it. Maybe it's uh, the bowling ball analogy. When the pins scatter, or when the moment that you are upright and sitting, there's a confidence there that's very deep. So it's a calmness. Um, it's last week I was talking about uh, there's there's no creature that ever falls short of its own completeness. Wherever it stands, it does not fail to cover the ground. So this sitting, yeah, this sitting is it's almost it's confirmation. Can I say confirmation? It's a confirming to what we know, what our body knows, when we sit and when we can feel ourselves sitting. So it's this a very grounded and a very settled confidence that it's an unshakable foundation. But of course, this unshakable foundation is the changing and the impermanence of all things. So let me read something from uh, from this, it should be clear that the true enlightenment of the Tathagata can never be grasped by words or by discrimination, nor by the illusory mind of ordinary human beings. When the Buddha was on Mount Ryuju with one of his million students, he picked up a flower and blinked. And the venerable Mahakashyapa smiled. At that time, the Tathagata said to the assembly, I transmit the Shobogenzo, Nihon Myoshin, the storehouse of the true Dharma I, the incomparable life in nirvana to Mahakashyapa. This Nihon Myoshin is the Tathagata's true enlightenment, which precedes language, discrimination, and illusory mind. This is also called the Jiju Zanmai, which has been transmitted for 51 generations from the Buddha to Bodhidharma, down through the sixth patriarch, down to Eihei Dogen, and now to us. The simultaneously practice enlightenment of this samadhi is nothing other than zazen, which we practice here today. This Dharma gate has been directly transmitted from the Buddha to Buddha, generation after generation. The Buddha's awareness, called Nihon Myoshin, is perfect and always quietly illuminating itself. Therefore, you must understand that Zen is just a provisional name. Jiju Zanmai is Shobo Genzo, Nihon Myoshin, and Buddha's wisdom. Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, the storehouse of the great light of wisdom, the samadhi of limitless meanings, the samadhi of the precious mirror, the king of samadhis, the samadhi of Vairashana Buddha symbolizing the whole universe. This is the be all of the Buddhas and the end all of the patriarchs. Understand this clearly and believe that this Jiju Zanmai is dropping off body and mind drop off. All of these terms taken from the various teachings of the Buddhas and patriarchs are names for Zazen that we practice here today. Although a great many people practice Zazen, almost all of them practice in the way of ordinary people. Bodhisattvas or provisional Mahayana understanding, those who understand the Jiju Zanmai as the true enlightenment of all Buddhas, are very few. The true Zazen, which has been transmitted by the Buddhas and patriarchs, is the Tathagata's Jiju Zanmai. It is the state in which the body and mind of perfect nirvana always abide peacefully. In the Lotus Sutra, the Tathagata's Zen is called Myo Ryogisho Zanmai, the samadhi of infinite meaning. In the Mahaprajna Sutra, it is called Tojyo Zanmai, the king of samadhis. It is referred to as Zanmai O Zanmai, and the master of Ryozan Tozan Ryokai named it Hokyo Zanmai, the samadhi of the precious mirror. Obviously, it is not a practice for getting rid of delusions and gaining enlightenment. The way to clarify and rely on the samadhi is done simply by not clouding the light of yourself. It is also said in another sutra that when you sit in the upright posture and are aware of reality, all evil is like frost or drop of dew. If you settle in the samadhi, all evil will disappear as promptly as frost or a drop of dew disappears under the sun. When the light of the self is clear, you follow neither the dullness nor distraction. When the cloudless light illuminates itself, there is no need to make mental struggle. There is no waste of energy. This is the vital point of the practice and enlightenment of this samadhi. The cloudless light illuminates itself, means the light of the self shines brightly. Not to make mental struggle means not to add the illusory mind's discrimination to the reality. When you make mental struggle, the light becomes illusory mind and brightness becomes darkness. If you do not make mental struggle, the darkness itself becomes the self-illumination of the light. This is similar to the light of a jewel illuminating the jewel itself. It is like the light of the sun or the moon illuminating everything, mountains and rivers, humans, beings and dogs, equally without differentiation or evaluation. Also, a mirror reflects everything without bothering to discriminate. In this Jiju Zanmai, just keep the light of the self unclouded without being concerned with discrimination of objects. This is the meaning of the expression in Wanshi Zenji's expression in his Zazen Shin. The be all of Buddhas and the end all of patriarchs, knowing without touching things, illuminating without facing objects. When you practice and learn the reality of Zazen thoroughly, the frozen blockage of illusory mind will naturally melt away. If you think that you have cut off illusory mind instead of simply clarifying how illusory mind melts, illusory mind will come up again as though you had cut a stem of a blade of grass or the trunk of a tree and left the root alive. I have a couple stories I want to add. These stories come from the Bendoa, and it's about maybe it's about having faith and actually not understanding and not understanding. So there's an old monk, and he heard some young monks discussing Buddhism and the 4 stages to arhatship, and he was he wanted to find out, and he wanted to become enlightened. So he asked these young monks that were kind of they were very novice, and the young monks told him, "We can give you teachings if you make a big feast for us." So he cooked this giant feast, and then he asked them for instruction, and then they after finishing the meal, they directed the old man to sit upright in the corner in a chair, and they told him, "Every time that we hit you, we strike your head with this ball, you will gain arhatship." So the the young monks get this ball, and then they hit the old monk, and then he becomes enlightened. And then again they hit him again, and he becomes enlightened. And again they hit him with the ball, and he becomes enlightened. He joyfully acquiesced, whereupon they began to bounce a ball against his head, saying, "That's the first stage." But with that, the old monk actually did attain the first stage towards his goal. They continued to bounce the ball against the head each time in different corners, each time assuring him that he had reached the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th stages. And the monk, each time the ball bounced from his head, did attain each of the stages, including the 4th, the highest. And then at the end, all the young monks were so surprised that they made prostrations to him. There's this other story about a woman who was deeply devoted to Buddhism and would provide food when the priests would leave this temple. So after they did these big ceremonies, they would walk, down the path out of the temple and then past this this woman. So again, she would provide food for the monks in return for some teachings of the Dharma. So one day, this old monk, and it says feeble-minded old monk, came to her place, and then so she provided him a meal, and he ate a lot of food. So after he ate the food, the woman expected to receive teachings and a sermon from this old monk, but the old monk at the time, he couldn't think of anything. So actually the old monk, he ran away. So, and she was sitting there, she opened up her eyes, and then the monk was gone. So she didn't know what happened. So she wanted to run after him. So she was looking for him in the forest. So but actually before she ran, it says in here, but as she sat waiting, she attained the first enlightenment stage. Then overjoyed, she opened her eyes to try to chase after the old monk, but he was gone. So she searched and searched all over, and she found him. And the monk he felt so bad that he wanted to say that he was sorry to her. So then she attained the next stage, and then also he became enlightened himself. Anyways, thank you.